Welcome to week 6 of the Mountain Valley News Pigskin Preview. I'm Monk Blevins, this is Logan Wright, and we're back with you this week to talk a little high school football. Logan, man, we're 5 weeks in, and, man, there's been some great football games. And what's your thoughts so far on our football games?
Oh, my goodness. It's getting harder and harder to pick every week because all these teams, they're battling back from losses, or there's so many upsets every week, and you can't tell who's going to win.
I tell you, and it's getting tough, and man, there's in these regions, man, there's so many of these regions that are just so close, and the one that comes to mind to me is the region at Plainview and Sylvania. Man, from week to week, you don't know who's going to win in that region, and it's been a tough region. But one thing I want to talk a little bit about before we get started with our football, Mountain Valley News, we got a couple of things going on that I wanted to mention. Our first is on November the 13th and 14th, we're going to be having an open house here. We'll have refreshments, and also we'll be having a drawing for a holiday gift basket, and you can come in the week of the open house and register for that gift basket, and we'll be giving that away. We'll be drawing on that on Saturday, November the 14th. And the other thing I wanted to mention is right now in Mountain Valley News, we've got a special going, and what it's going to be, if you come in and sign up to become a new member or a new subscriber, you will be put in for a drawing for. We'll have 4 different drawings. There's going to be a drawing for Western sizzling dinner, turkey, a ham, and then our grand prize will be 2 tickets to the Alabama-Charleston Southern football game, which is on November the 21st. So if you come in and register, sign up for a new subscription or membership, you get your name put in a drawing for that. And then also, what will happen if you come in and register right now, you will get 3 months free. You'll have November, December, and January will be free, and your membership will start from February and run through February. So I encourage everybody to come out. If you're not a subscriber to our paper, we'd love to have you and sign up. Chance to win a ham, turkey, or Western sizzling and football tickets. So I just wanted to run that by you. Let's go ahead now and break down our games this week. Our first game, we've got Valley Head. We'll be traveling to Spring Garden. Man, this is a huge region game. Valley Head comes in. They had a bye last week, and they come in with a 2-3 record, but they're 2-1 in this region. And a win this week could be huge. What's your thoughts on this Valley Head team as they?
Well, this Spring Garden team, they've definitely been struggling so far, and hopefully the Valley Head took their bye week and they used that to kind of prepare for Spring Garden. I know a lot of coaches handle a bye week differently. You have some that are going to let the kids rest and go to the fair and just give them some downtime. You have others that say, well, we're going to put the pads on and we're going to go to work. But either way, whatever they did at practice, hopefully it worked for them. And I believe that Ethan Harrison, he's their quarterback at Valley Head. I believe he'll be up and ready, and he'll be ready to take on this Spring Garden team.
Yeah, it's going to be a great game. Devin Leaps for Valley Head, he continues to play well at running back. And, the Spring Garden team, they come in, I think they're 2-3, and they have 2 region wins. So, the winner of this game, could be big in that region for the, 2nd or 3rd or even 4th, to get in the playoffs. So it's a big game for Valley Head, and I know Coach Graham will have this team ready to go. Our next game is Sandrock versus Sylvania. Sandrock comes in after, they put a whipping on 4A Crossville this week. I think the score was 31-7. What's your thoughts on this Sandrock team after they put this whipping on Crossville?
I love watching this Sandrock team. They seem to bounce back after they had 2 tough losses with North Sand and Plainview back-to-back. But their quarterback, Caleb Kasinger, he comes in and he throws for, I believe it was 196 yards against a pretty good 4A team. Now, we know Crossville's record isn't the best, but they improve week to week. And that's still a 3A team competing and actually winning against a 4A team. So, big congratulations to the Sandrock Wildcats on that win next week, and we'll see what they do against Sylvania.
Yeah, it's going to be a great game. Sylvania comes in, man, they played a 5 team last week, and they lost 34-7, and I'm going to tell you what, this 5 team pretty much shut down. Sylvania had 89 total yards of offense in this game, and, Caleb Roebuck scored their only touchdown with just a few minutes left in the football game, but this Sylvania team, and we've talked about them all year, and, they have potential. I mean, they have got some potential to to win some football games, but turnovers and penalties and they just keep getting hurt on things like on these turnovers. But I'm telling you, this Sylvania team, the San Roque coming to Sylvania, this could be a big win for Sylvania this week if they can get all these things straightened out, and they need a win in the region. So that's going to be a great game. I think. It'll be a good ball game. San Roque is playing well, and beat a decent Crossville team. Crossville hasn't won any games, but man, the region they play in is tough. So, but this Sylvania and San Roque game could be a very good football game this week. Next game, we've got Sacs going to Crossville. We talked a little bit about Crossville. They lost to San Roque 31-7, and man, I tell you, they had the Cotton kids scored their only touchdown of the game, and it was late in the fourth quarter. And this San Roque team just pretty much manhandled Crossville. And the Sacs team is coming in with a record of 4-1 this week. And what's your thoughts on this ball game?
You talk about Sacs. I mean, they're definitely physical, and I believe Crossville's going to have their hands full. We typically talk about Crossville and we say they never have a bye week because of how tough their region is. Well, they played out of region last week, and it was still tough on them because you talk about San Roque Wildcats. When you think San Roque, you think physical. I mean, they have a huge line, and they gave their quarterback time, and he put the ball where it needed to be, and that ended up, taking them to the victory. But Crossville, it's going to be a tough one for them. I don't want to say they can't do it because you never know, but if they want to win this game, they're going to have to improve.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. You look down the schedule at this Crossville team, the schedule they have to play, and man, it doesn't get any easier. This Sacs team and the 4A region is tough. So, I felt like they had their best chance of winning last week against San Roque, and of course San Roque proved me wrong. And it's going to be a tough week for Crossville against Sacs. This Sacs team comes in and leading that region, and I tell you, it's going to be tough for Crossville to win this one. And again, looking down the schedule, they've got a long road ahead of them. But man, they need to get a win, and I hope they can pull one off. And man, what a huge win this! If they could upset Sac this week, that would be a huge ball game. Our next game, we have West End traveling to Ider. This was Ider was. Played North Sand Mountain last week, and that was the Mountain Valley News game of the week. And man, what a ball game that was! Ider defeated North Sand Mountain 9-7. Man, it was a hard-nosed, fought football game. Jacob Higgins had 101 yards on 20 carries, and Jarrett Palmer had 140 yards on 23 carries. So, what's your thoughts on this game this week? This Ider team. We've talked a lot about them. What's your thoughts on Ider and playing West End this week?
I love watching Ider's offense run. They run that wing T, and they run it to perfection. It looks like a well-oiled machine. I know their coaching staff there has done a great job. Just watching them, you can tell the players know where they need to be. They're working up to linebackers, and that's really one of the reasons I believe they've been so successful lately. They played North Sand last week, and North Sand runs that screen game, and I thought it was really going to be a test for Ider's defense as far as they don't typically see that type of offense, that sort of spread, especially with their secondary, but their secondary showed up, and they proved me wrong, and Ider came out of there with a W.
Yeah, they pretty much dominated the time of possession in the first half. They ran 30 plays to 9 plays for North Sand Mountain. So, Coach Tinker has this Ider team playing well. They're sitting at 4-1. Of course, they lost to a great 5 team, and we'll talk about them later. But I tell you, this Ider team. They are the real deal, and I think they've got a good chance of making the playoffs if they can stay healthy. And I know they were banged up this last week, and Coach was worried about that. The North Sand Mountain game with some of the injuries that he had, but sounds like they played well. So congratulations to Ider on that big win, and we'll see what happens this week. Our next game, we've got Plainview and Pisgah. Plainview comes in after beating Section 27-0. Plainview started out a little bit slow in that game. Offensively, they just seemed like the first half they couldn't get it going. I think they scored late in the second quarter and made it 7-0. But what's your thoughts on Plainview and this game this week against Pisgah?
Well, I actually got to cover the Plainview section game, and that score really doesn't do that game justice. It was 7-0 at half, and right before the halftime, it was 0-0. Plainview didn't score until right before half. Plainview's defense to me looked amazing. I mean, they didn't give section field position, which is why it didn't allow section to score, and they were making section go 3 and out, and they were getting stops when they were needing to. But Plainview's offense just couldn't seem to move the ball. And they finally broke a long one, and that's how they scored. I think that's really been the story of Plainview lately. When they score, it's because of a long run that they have made.
Right.
I feel like that offense, they're definitely going to have to, I don't want to say work on their short yardage gains, because they're coming up short on 3rd and short, and that can't happen in this 3A region. They're going to have to work on that rushing game.
Yeah. This region that Plainview's in, man, I tell you, and we kind of touched on that earlier. Man, it's a tough region, and man, from week to week, you just don't know who is going to be doing what. Will Kirk had another good game. He caught a 40-yard touchdown pass from the
Bailey Dukes.
Bailey Dukes. Yeah, I went blank there. And so this Plainview team is capable of winning. Pisgah comes in. They had a bye last week, so, they've been working all week waiting for Plainview. And, Pisgah would love to come down to Plainview this week and get a big win there. And I tell you, this will be a great ball game. And this is actually the Plainview Pisgah game is the Mountain Valley News game of the week. So it's going to be a great ball game, and we'll see how that goes. Like I said, I think Plainview has a chance. Their defense is playing well if they can get their offense in gear. And, they've had a lot of penalties and things like that that's hurt them. So we'll see how that goes this week. It's going to be a great football game.
I believe it's actually been close to 30, it may be a little more than 30 years since Pisgah has actually beaten Plainview.
Really? Wow.
That record is still alive, and we'll see if it changes Friday.
All right. Well, our next game, we've got Collinsville traveling over to Section, and, we talked about Section. They were shut out by Plainview 27-0. Collinsville comes in. They traveled to Horseshoe Bend, and they won that game 28-14, and I had actually forgotten about this, but, Horseshoe Bend traveled to Collinsville last year and upset Collinsville, and so, Collinsville was ready to go down and get some revenge this week, and, man, Grant Jones had a great game. He was 12 of 15 for 135 yards passing, and Dallas Reed continues to play well. He rushed 68 yards on 6 carries. So what's your thoughts on Collinsville? And we've talked about this massive offensive line they've got. And
Well, I've actually got to cover a few of Collinsville's games, and I got to tell you, they are one of the most athletic-looking teams I've seen, and they're physical. They're having some trouble finishing and getting the W. I got to watch them play Cleveland. And that first quarter, I would have picked Collinsville. If I only got to watch the first quarter, I would have picked Collinsville over Cleveland. But they have some trouble with ball control and turnovers and stuff like that. It's still kind of early in the season. They need to start putting that away if they want to continue to build and win. But we talk about how big they are. I mean, they are massive.
Yeah, you're right on the Collinsville. Ernie Willingham, each week it seems like he keeps talking about, penalties and turnovers. And that has really hurt them all season, and they're in every ball game, but they have trouble holding on the ball, and so if they can correct some of these turnovers, Collinsville's got a really good shot of making the playoffs this year with and Coach Ernie Willingham has done a great job there. So this should be a good game for Collinsville, and we'll see how that goes this week. It's going to be an exciting game. Our next game, Fife at Gaston. Fife comes in, man, I tell you what, this Fife team, after losing to Cleveland in week 3, I think, maybe, they have just absolutely come out and they just want to prove to everybody, hey, this was a fluke. And so I'll tell you, they keep getting better every week. Dylan Kilpatrick, man, what can we say about him? And I think he was our player of the week, I think. And wow, I tell you what, he is a very good running back. And talk to us a little about, tell us what Dylan did this week, actually.
Dylan Kilpatrick, he rushed for 342 yards. He actually broke the Fife rushing record for most yards in a game with 342, and that should probably mean a little bit more as far as rushing records go, because you talk about Fife running backs, you've got Trent Thrash and Taylor Thrash, and there have been some great Fife running backs through the years. And he now holds the record for the most yards in a game.
Yeah, this Fife team, they rushed for 433 total yards, and Kilpatrick had 342. I mean, that's unbelievable. And again, they held Sylvania to 89 total yards. I think Seth Benefield had 2 touchdowns on the night, and they just keep getting better. I know, losing your starting quarterback, and especially when they had to go travel to or play Cleveland the next week, that was tough on them. But I tell you what, since that game, man, I tell you, they have come back, and they look really good. And, I expect this 5 team to just keep rolling on through the playoffs. And I tell you, they're a great football team. So our next game is Lee versus Fort Payne. Man, Fort Payne comes in and they lost a heartbreaker. They got beat by Hazel Green. A score of 21-17. Hazel Green jumped out on them, 14-0. And then, then Desmond Turner, he finally got going and he scored 2 touchdowns and they kicked the field goal and they were up 17-14 with 1:09 left in the ball game. And you'd think they had the game won. They kick off. Of course, their kicker is great. He kicks it in the end zone, and you're thinking, they got to drive it 80 yards. Well, Hazel Green drove it 80 yards, scored the winning touchdown with 3 seconds left in the game. So what's your thoughts, coming in this week after a loss, what's your thoughts on Fort Payne and this Lee team?
You know that Coach Ellis is upset after that. I mean, they had them on the ropes. They just couldn't put that last nail in the coffin, and they got to use this as momentum. We talk about five getting beat by that Cleveland team. Totally just turned, I don't want to say their team motto around, how they've came out angry each week, like they have something to prove. And I think Fort Payne's going to have to do the exact same thing to be successful this year. Yeah,
luckily, this wasn't a region game, and but I tell you, the Desmond Turner, man, we've talked about him each week, and he continues to get better and better, and this Lee team, they'll be traveling to Fort Payne. It's Fort Payne's homecoming, and I guarantee you Fort Payne will be ready this week after that loss last week. So that should be a great game, and we'll see how that one goes. Our next game, and this is a huge football game. Geraldine versus North Sand Mountain. Geraldine comes in after beating Sardis last week 27-20. This Sardis team is in Class 4A and actually a pretty good football team. And I heard a little bit about this game, and it was back and forth. But this Geraldine team, I tell you, they are playing good right now. And Stephen Hood rushed. He had 121 yards rushing and scored 3 touchdowns. So, man, he is tough. And this Geraldine team is playing well, so I think you're going to see them. They're making some noise in this region, and again, this region, I tell you, man, with Geraldine and Plainview and Sylvania and Pisgah and New Hope, it is a tough region. But this Geraldine team is going to make some noise there. So, what's your thoughts on Geraldine?
Well, first off, I got to send them a big congratulations. They actually are Mountain Valley News Team of the Week, like you said. They beat Sardis, who's a great football team, the good football program in general. They beat them 27-20, and so big congratulations goes out to them for that. You talk about their region, it's kind of a toss-up right now. I mean, I believe New Hope is winning right now, and then you have North Sand at a second, but from then on out, all those teams are just kind of, you could flip a coin because everybody's beating everybody. And Geraldine has a great chance to go on and make a playoff run, but North Sand is definitely going to be a stepping stone to that. They need to win this game because it'll put them ahead, and they need that just because of how many teams have one loss by somebody else in the region.
Absolutely, yeah. This North Sand Mountain team, I tell you, I've picked against them it actually was the 4th week I picked against them, and they finally, they did lose this week to Eider, but this North Sand Mountain team has surprised a lot of people. They had their running back. He had I think a 68-yard touchdown, Chris George, and that was their only touchdown of the night. Of course, it was a 9-7 game. But this North Sand Mountain team, they're big and they're physical. So this will be a great football game. Geraldine, they come in, they're physical. They play a lot like Fife. Their coach played for Coach Benefield, so they've got that hard-nosed football in them. And I tell you, this will be a great football game. And the winner of this game, probably has a good shot at finishing second in that region. So it'll be a great game, and I'm excited to watch that game and see what happens. The next game we want to talk about, Auburn and San Jose State. Auburn comes in, man. I tell you, they switched their quarterbacks out this week and put Sean White in, And I will say he looked better. He done some things, especially in the second half. And this Auburn team, man, they need a win bad. I think this week they've got a real good opportunity of winning. And and the defense looked much better this week, especially in the second half. So that's going to be a great game, and I think Auburn will get back on the winning track. We'll see about that one. Our next game, college game we want to talk about is Alabama and Georgia. Alabama comes in, after losing to Ole Miss, and then they played Louisiana Monroe this week, and they played okay. It wasn't anything to brag about, I guess, but this is going to be a great football game. They're going to be traveling to Georgia. Georgia is ranked number 8 in the nation, and so this will be a great football game, and we'll see how good this Alabama defense is against Georgia. Their running backs they got Marshall and Chubbs, man, they are tough, and then of course their quarterback has set an NCAA record, for completed passes. Week 4 last he was like 24 of 25, and I think this week he was 13 of 14 or something like that. So this is going to be a great matchup, and Alabama's going to have their hands full, but they need to win this ball game this week. So we'll see what happens there. And then the last game we'll talk about, we got Ole Miss going to Florida. Ole Miss comes in, they struggled with a Vandy team this week, which surprised me. Vandy gave them all they wanted for about 3.5 quarters, and and then we talk about Florida. Tennessee had Florida on the ropes the whole ball game, and then with 2 minutes left, they 4th down and 14, and man, they hit a pass, and they have one great block from one of the receivers, and he takes it to the house. And this Tennessee team, they're snake bit in the last few minutes of the ball games. They just can't seem to get over the hump. And I know Tennessee was very disappointed. They played great for 3.5 quarters, but this Florida team is undefeated. So who knows? When you like we've talked about all year, and you get on these winning streaks, and the momentum starts building, you never know what's going to happen. So it's going to be a great week of football. We've talked about all these games, and and now it's time for us to pick. And we have our guest picker this week. We've got Mr. Ken Gann from Alpha Insurance, and they're one of our sponsors, and we sure do appreciate them. And how you doing, Ken?
Hey, thanks, guys. Happy to be here today.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you guys and what y'all have done for Mountain Valley News and one of the sponsors of our show. And the way we do this, we just go down the list here, and we're going to pick the games. And since you're our guest, we're going to let you pick first. So our first game is Valley Head versus Spring Garden. Ken, who you going to pick in this one?
I tell you what, I'm gonna stay with the county team of Valley Head. I think Coach Graham's got his guys playing, and look forward to that game. I think they'll come out on top.
All right, Logan, who you got in this one?
Well, I think that Valley Head continues to improve with each game, but I feel like Spring Garden's going to take this one.
Well, I'll tell you what, this is one of those games, each week there's about 2 or 3 games that I just struggle with, and this was one of them. This Valley Head team is actually playing pretty good. And, it came down to me, it was the Spring Garden, they're playing at home, and so I'm going with Spring Garden just because it is at home, and hopefully Coach Graham and Valley Head will prove me wrong this week. Our next game, Sandrock versus Sylvania. Who you got in this one, Ken?
Well, Sylvania took a beating this last week, but Coach Putman's a good friend of mine that go back a few years, and I think Sandrock will be a little flat this week, and I hope Sylvania comes out and shows them who's on top.
Yeah. Who you got in this one, Logan?
I'm going to have to go with Caleb Kasinger and the Sandrock Wildcats.
All right. Well, I'm going with Sylvania. I feel like I'm with Ken. I think Coach Putnam is he's a great guy, and he's done a good job. And if they can get rid of some of these turnovers and these penalties, I think they'll win this ball game. So I'm going with Sylvania this week. Our next game, Sacs versus Crossville. Who you got in this one?
Well, I've got Sacs. Crossville's just been really struggling lately, and a lot of morale issues there. So I'm going to go with Sacs.
Logan?
I'm going to have to go with Sacs, too. I feel like they're still going to be a little bit down from that loss Crossville is, and I feel like Sacs is going to just take this one.
Yeah, I'm going with Sacs, too. This Sacs football team, they're the real deal, and I tell you, Crossville, unfortunately, they're in 4A in a region that's just tough, and I think it's going to be a long night for them in this ball game. Our next game, Collinsville versus Section. Who you got in this one?
I'm going with Collinsville in this game. I think Section's just downtime this year, and I think Collins will come out on top.
Logan?
Well, I feel like we talk about how big Collinsville is. Well, this section team is a little undersized in a couple areas, and I feel like that's really going to take effect. So I'm going to have to go with Collinsville.
Yeah, I'm going with Collinsville too. I really like Ernie Willingham and the job he's done at Collinsville, and I think they'll get a big win this week against Section. Our next game, West End versus Ider. Who you got in this one, Ken?
Well, that's my old homeboys there. That's my old homeboys. Coach Tinker and all the gang there. I'm going with Ider.
All right. Logan, who you got?
I'm going to have to go with Coach Tinker and Ider. I just love watching them play, and I love watching that offense.
Yeah, I'm picking Ider too. I tell you, Coach Tinker has done such a great job with the Ider Hornets, and they're sitting at 4-1. They've got a great team, of course. So I'm going with Ider, and they're going to have to prove me wrong. I usually pick them every week. So, all right, our next game, Pisgah versus Plainview, and this is our Mountain Valley News game of the week. Who you got in this one?
I'm going with Plainview on that game. I believe they'll be the one on top at the end.
Who you got, Logan?
Well, this is a very hard pick for me. I feel like Audie Smothers is going to do a great job for Pisgah at the quarterback position. But Pisgah's typically had success throwing the ball this year. Well, Plainview's best asset of their defense is their secondary. That's where they have the most experience, and I feel like they're gonna come up with some interceptions, and hopefully the turnover ratio will go towards them. So I'm gonna have to go with Plainview.
Yeah. Well, and this one has been tough on me, and of course I was talking to some of the guys, and I told them, my wife, she's been on me all year if I pick against Plainview, and I've been back and forth on this one. You can tell on my sheet that I've kind of been back and forth, but I'm going with Plainview. I think I'm like you. I think Plainview's got a chance in this ball game. They're playing at home, and Will Kirk seems to be playing good. And if our quarterback can get, if they can throw the ball and just throw it up to Will, he's a big kid, and I think I got a chance to win this game. So I'm going with Plainview this week. Our next game, Fife at Gaston. Who you got in this one?
Well, I'm going with Fife. They're on a roll right now, and Dylan Kilpatrick is somewhere back, and I'm going to go with the Red Devils.
Logan?
Well, I don't even really look to see who Fife's playing anymore. So I'm going to have to go with Fife.
Yeah, I'm picking Fife too. We had a chance to go down and talk a little bit with Coach Benefield last week, and I'll tell you what, he's on a mission. He's on a mission to win this, win out and make a long run in the playoffs. And I'm telling you, this Fife team will go a long way. People kind of got disheartened when they lost to Cleveland, but I think that was probably a little bit of a fluke. So I tell you, this Fife team is tough. I'm going with the Fife Red Devils. Our next game, Lee versus Fort Payne. Who you got in this one?
I'm going with Fort Payne. I think Coach Ellis, they lost a heartbreaker last week, and I believe he'll have them ready to play this week.
All right, Logan, who you got in this one?
Well, this is homecoming, and I think Fort Payne, this is their game to lose. I feel like that rushing game is just going to take hold.
Yeah, I'm going with Fort Payne too. Desmond Turner, I think if they'll just feed the ball to him, they'll have a big night. So I'm picking Fort Payne. Our next game is Geraldine versus North Sand Mountain. Who you got in this one, Ken?
I'm going with Geraldine. I think they'll go up there, and I think they'll come out on top.
Logan?
This one I've went back and forth on all week. I'm going to go with the North Sand Mountain. I'm going to go with North Sand.
Right. Well, I'm going with the Geraldine Bulldogs too. I tell you, this is one of those games that's just, it's tough. I've picked against North Sand Mountain every week, and I did win last week, and we'll see again. Maybe I'm on a roll now, but I'm going with Geraldine this week. Our next game, San Jose State versus Auburn. Ken, who you got in this one?
I tell you what, being an Auburn fan, it's been a little tough year, but I'm excited about the quarterback change. I thought even though we lost last week, we played better as a whole and team. So, hey, I'm going with Auburn.
Logan?
I don't know. This is actually a tough one. We've seen what Jacksonville did to them, but I'm gonna have to go with the SEC and pick Auburn here.
Yeah, I'm going with Auburn too. I think they did. They improved a lot. I thought the quarterback play was much better, and the defense really improved. So I think Auburn's getting it on track now. I think they'll have a big win this week. All right, our next game, Alabama versus Georgia. Who you got in this one, Ken?
Well, I tell you what, I've got to go with the Bulldogs in this game. I think their offense is just really clicking right now. Their quarterback is hot. I think Coach Pruitt will have his defense ready to play against Alabama. So I'm going well with the home team, and I'm going with Georgia.
All right. Logan?
I'm going to have to disagree. I'm going to have to go with Alabama. I can't bring myself to pick against them. I would probably be left back in the house if I did. So.
Well, I'm going with Alabama too. I think I'm probably picking from my heart more than I am my brain on this one. But, I don't know. Sometimes you get those gut feelings. So I think Alabama has a chance this week. So I'm picking Alabama. And in our last game, we got Ole Miss versus Florida. Who you got in this one?
Well, you talked about Ole Miss being a little flat last week, and they was, but Florida, I think they're going to be a little down after that big loss or big win against Tennessee. So I'm going to go with Ole Miss.
All right. Who you got in this one, Logan?
I'm picking Ole Miss. I feel like Florida's rushing game isn't going to take effect as much against that Ole Miss defense, and I feel like Ole Miss's passing offense is really going to affect them.
Yeah, I'm going with Ole Miss too. With this Florida team, of course, they had a big win this week, but I think, like you said, I think they may be flat after that big win, and so I'm picking Ole Miss to pull the big win there. So, we've talked about these games and we've picked them, and man, it's going to be another great week of football. And I encourage you, man, if you have the chance, get out and go watch some of these high school football teams. And we appreciate you guys for being here. I'm Monk Blevins. We got Ken Gann and Logan Wright, and we appreciate you being here. And God bless each one of you. And we'll see you next week.